And given that we don't have a quorum here today, I think we can dispatch with approving the minutes from before one more time. I will try to reach out to Mike Summer directly just to see if he's still. It's even been a while since I got one of his forwarded community emails that I've seen. So we have a couple of guests here today. Thomas, I guess you're just here to follow up and see where we're at. And Mark Willett is here from Axiom and was interested in getting a little bit of information from us in response to the RFI that was sent out last time. So we'll get to that pretty quickly here. Sandy, why don't you tackle this, because you just emailed the updates about the grant, just so we can have that out there in the meeting, even though it's preliminary.
Yeah. So the Get Ready grant that we were recommended to apply for, I did get through to the grant manager, and preliminary, unofficial, it looks like our committee has been approved for the $10,000 grant. The board has to do the final voting on December 2nd, and then the paperwork will all come out to us for a signature and check probably early next year. And that was to requesting for additional technical assistance to help us through the next steps of this. And I did submit the grant application I shared with the chairman of our committee. So if they care to share it further, fiscal agent will be Town of Gouldsboro for this grant, as was the last one. And we'll need to double check on clarification on whether the connectivity booster needs to be part of that, or whether that's still a priority for us with these funds.
Okay.
So
excellent, but always good news.
Yeah.
And then I guess, why don't we be respectful of time, and we'll turn to you, Mark, and see what questions you had for us to be able to move forward.
Great. Well, thank you. For most of you, you probably don't, or all of you, you don't know me. I'm the CEO of Axiom Technology. So we're based in Machias. I live in Scarborough. So by the way, about 4 hours away. My family never really got into the swing of moving up north to Machias. My wife's a real estate broker, and she was like, hell no, all my business is in Portland. So I commute back and forth fairly regularly, and our business has really been driven by community broadband, where which is what I will be expressing to you in my RFP response. But because the or RFI response, because the RFI was so sparse in comparison to others, I thought I'd ask a couple of questions, which I like, by the way, just so you know, I like it. Was just to ask a few questions of you, because I'm just trying to get a sense of where the committees are coming from and what their thoughts are. It starts with sort of your current providers, and sort of get a feel for why you came together in the first place. Current providers in your towns, Spectrum and or Consolidated, are there. They're providing some level of service, in some cases better service than others, to some than others. Do you have a sense within the committee's standpoint whether or not they are viable options for you at this point? And have you spoken with them about potentially expanding their service or providing better service than they currently have?
So I'll start off. They were sent the same RFI that you were. I have not heard back from anybody at Consolidated or Spectrum Charter at this point. It is very dependent on location. Bob Bastinto, the co-chair, would point out that Winter Harbor is approximately 70% served by Spectrum. Consolidated, much less, and we know that, I mean, it's DSL wherever it is, so it's nowhere near the level of service that we want. So really the only places where Consolidated is providing what we consider to be competitive service is where they offer those sparse, those very few locations like the town office and the police station where they're offering some fiber base, which I'm sure is through their enterprise side, not their regular, home and regular business side. Gouldsboro is much more of a mixed bag. I don't have the, let me see if I can try and look for more information, actually get our survey results and provide those to you. That's probably the simplest way to do it. We did do a survey. We've done one in Winter Harbor, the results of which are coming back now. But we did a survey earlier this year of Gouldsboro, and we got a significant, reasonably good return rate considering what we expected to get. And there's certainly nowhere that the full 100 by 100 measure of broadband was provided in Gouldsboro. So most of the people that had Spectrum are obviously in the 25 megabit area download. So there's a good chunk of the town, but again, it's very geographically dependent. Gouldsboro is pretty spread out.
Okay, and do you, if, I assume that if Spectrum and or Consolidated came in with a reasonable proposal, you guys would be considering that as a possibility? What's your appetite for a different type of ownership model, I guess, other than private?
I can only speak for myself. As much as I love the idea and would love to see us own our own network, because I feel that long term that gives us more control and more opportunity to expand the way we want to. It is certainly an expense for the towns. It would have some hurdles to go through to get town approval. So if Spectrum or Consolidated were to come through and do exactly what we asked them to do and put in fiber basically to serve every house to speak of, except for long driveways,
Right.
I think it would be probably difficult to turn that down.
Okay.
But Tom, you actually had spoken with, you spoke to somebody at Spectrum, and they had given you a very rosy timeline of when they could actually plan to expand service. Could you just add that color to the discussion?
So my discussions with the person, and again, he and she, I dealt with two different people here in the local office. Their plans for putting in fiber in Hancock County as general to residential is 2029. That's their starting point. That's when they're going to begin the process. They anticipated it'd be between 5 and 7 years after that before it was rolled out to our area. So real cheesy.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, good. That I think is very helpful. And you did have a curious description of the polls, which I think you answered, which is sort of like I can't even remember. It read in a way that I had to read it several times. I'm a little bit curious about how you came to that explanation. I think I know what you mean, and I think you said I know what you mean, but I just wanted to get clarity on what you were trying to convey.
Any poll that offers service to more than one distinct customer basically it's a way to say that if there is a, for example, a private road that connects to 2 or 3 little houses down that road, we'd like to find a way to include those poles with the service. But if it's just literally one person or one family down a long driveway, and maybe they rent a an apartment over garage, that's really just one customer, and that's a more less of what we're trying to. That could be negotiated, that they could build that out. But just to try to get as many customers as possible. And I wouldn't say it's a hard and fast thing. It's just a place to start that discussion.
Gotcha. Okay, fair enough. I figured that's what it was, but I was like, geez, I've just never heard it described quite that way. I was like, huh, interesting. So that's good. Okay, very good. Do you think that, given your preliminary sort of findings from your survey, that people are going to be, especially are going to be hungry for new service, especially those that are served by DSL, I would assume, is going to be a no-brainer because it's so poor. How do you think the people who are served by Spectrum feel? Are any of you served by Spectrum? How do you feel about your service? Well, you're on this committee, so you mustn't like it, but
I'm going to look for survey results, but others who've had it, go ahead and jump in and answer first.
Yeah, Mark.
Go ahead.
Mark, I'm in Winter Harbor on Summer Harbor Road, and the preliminary community members who actually appreciate connectivity for multiple uses beyond just entertainment are anxious for some better service. The connectivity with Spectrum is constantly down. Many people are working remotely and having a lot of frustration with working remotely. We've had a lot of residents go to satellite because they just don't even want to wait for fiber. But I do believe the number of businesses run by home right now are looking for a serious connectivity. And I'm also on the comprehensive plan for Winter Harbor, and we're very aware of the lack of economic development that will not happen without strong connectivity. And Spectrum, I've been with Spectrum probably 8 years and cannot wait to get rid of them.
understood. Okay, fair enough.
Hi, Mark here, Mark Sobczak. I just did a little speed test and I'm at 250 megabits per second, and I've had no problems with Spectrum, but I'm on the other side, the West Bay Road, which is very close to Prospect Harbor. And like I said, for me, it's not a big problem as far as what we're paying. And like I said, I'm basically internet only and streaming other stuff. So I'm happy with Spectrum on my end.
Gotcha. Okay. The reason I ask is because Spectrum has had an increasingly strong campaign across Maine to hinder or stop community broadband processes and to try to protect their monopoly status in the communities in which they operate. And I just think for every community that's going through these processes, being aware of that is super important, because Spectrum has a history of coming in the 11th hour after processes have been completed, things have been selected, goals have been set moving forward, and then they come in and can throw a pretty heavy wrench into a community process by putting a wedge between the councils or the select boards and the broadband committees who have done all of the work up to that point. So I'm interested. I am interested. You are both towns. Are you appointed by the boards or by the boards in each of your towns as a committee, standing committee of the town official, or can you just describe? I'm sorry to do this to you, but I'm sort of feeling like, let me just sort of back up. I'm sorry to ask a lot of questions. I apologize. I do a lot of planning with a lot of communities across Maine. I'm doing planning right now in a number of communities. I'm also building a number of projects across Maine. I've also attracted about $15 million in grant funding against those projects. I'm doing a lot of work everywhere. So I'm always really curious, because I think that my point of view to your RFI will try to channel your goals, what you're trying to achieve, because that's how we do our business. It's not sort of a necessarily a one size fits all process for Axiom. We try to be very, very responsive to the communities we work with, and we like them to like us, and we like to like the communities we work with. So we kind of, we're looking for that kind of relationship. So when, I'm just asking all these questions just to get a feel from you guys and gals about sort of where you're coming from, what you're thinking about. That's all. It's not really probing in any other way than that. I'm just trying to figure out some things, because I do worry about communities who are increasingly, I'm getting worried about communities that have Spectrum service in them. Right now, I'm working with Lubec as an example. They're about 75% covered by Spectrum. And I've been advising them, we just applied for funding for the state. I just advised them that they better get on their heels and get connected more fully to both of their select boards and to their community, because Spectrum will come in some way or another and make waves there, and they better be prepared for that, because that will be something that can put their process sideways. 2 years of work could be, go down the drain, so to speak, just because of some of this activity. So I just, I worry about that. It just was trying to get a sense. So do you have connectivity into your boards, each of your towns? And how does that look? How do you feel about that kind of what I mean connectivity, meaning they're aware of your efforts, they endorse your efforts, or they don't endorse your efforts? Kind of where do you guys stand in those processes?
Yeah. So to one of your questions, I don't know that I would characterize us as appointed. I think pretty much everybody who's on this committee is sort of volunteered. There were two separate committees originally. Winter Harbor, I think, had their committee first. Sandy was certainly a member of that. There were some other individuals, and the Gouldsboro committee formed a little bit later. And then because of the geography and just the realities of trying to do this work, we came together as a group. We felt that it made sense to work together, and we sought approval from the respective both select boards to work as a single committee. So that's how we came together. We did have a person from the Gouldsboro town office who was a direct link to that side of things. She has since resigned her position at the Gouldsboro town office, so we don't have that particular direct link anymore. I am, however, the IT manager for Schoodic Institute, which is sort of an anchor organization in Winter Harbor. I also do the IT work for the town of Winter Harbor and for the town of Gouldsboro. So I've got that connection, and I'm in good with at least 4 of the select board in Gouldsboro, and I'm cordial with the select board in Winter Harbor, I'd say. So I have that advantage. And Tom, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, Mark, I live in Hamden, so I'm very familiar with what you're doing. So I appreciate it.
Do you live in Hamden? Oh my goodness, yes. One of my great community, but that was a rough ride for sure. It still is, I assume, but it's going the way it's going. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Good.
I get it.
Understood.
And I'll add a little bit more to that. I've also reached out to other communities that surround us as well, because certainly a hope in my mind, and I think a hope somewhat in the minds of the other committee members, is that if we did do a large project, probably the more towns we have working towards that aim, the better. The town of Franklin, that's where I'm from. I'm not actually a resident of the Schoodic Peninsula. I just end up spending a lot of time there. Franklin is interested in working with us. The town of Steuben is interested in working with us. And the other towns are in some stage of broaching the topic with their select boards if they wanted to work with us on a potential regional project. So, and again, I do the IT work for every town from Hancock to Millbridge, so along Route 1. So I've got my fingers into those communities as well a little bit.
Gotcha. Okay, fair enough.
Sandy?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to the Winter Harbor end of that, Mark, is that the select board did assign a Winter Harbor committee specifically. And like Roy was saying, we eventually collaborated together. And Bob Bustino is from Winter Harbor, and that's the connection there. He has been presenting probably every couple months, just the status of where the committees are going. So they're aware. But having Roy in the communities has been really instrumental in having us keep that all together.
Got it. Okay, very good. So you do see yourselves as working together. Most communities don't like each other. As you know, in Maine, we're for 435 fiefdoms. And, there's a long history of the baseball teams not getting along and football teams not getting along and this kind of thing. So, but it's possible that you guys might actually consider a regional project together as a group of two or more, depending on what happens over time. Is that why you're together, or are you still thinking that you might move individually depending on how fast your community wants to move?
Mark, I would add that the connectivity into Winter Harbor has to go through Goldsboro, and the selectmen realize that.
There is definitely a history of, I will say, contention between the two towns. But on the other hand, they also have a history of working together in ways that, make sense, and it's hard to argue that. I mean, they did a school consolidation project in the last 15 years. They've been in the same high school district since the 1950s. They were two of the towns that basically started the high school. They did share a police chief recently. The police departments work closely with each other. So there is good collaboration, but they still like to, stick their nose up at each other from time to time. But that's any towns that are neighboring have that. Franklin has its own things as well. So I think I would like to see personally us try to do a collaborative process if it's possible. Certainly geography makes it a no-brainer in this case. But
Okay.
so this committee, I see, regardless of whether there are other towns that join in, this committee, I think, really wants to try to move forward with a single project or solution for both towns. And I do have the brief summary of the survey results, so I can just share that real quick so you can see.
Yeah. Did you send something out electronically? Or
we did paper, and there was an electronic version that people could fill out online, and all of the survey results were collected by the booster. The paper ones were then entered into the digital format. So this is just the highlights of our survey. So 8.3 was the response rate. 92% had internet, 54% with DSL, 30% cable, 52%, 53 find it inadequate, 8% didn't have it but wanted it. Main obstacle is availability. And then the question that we asked at the end was specifically towards a community-owned option. And that was very favorably responded among respondents, I should say.
Very interesting. Pretty good responses, 8.3%. Not that bad. Pretty good, all things considered.
Yeah, they didn't get anything for filling it out and turning it back in. So
Not too bad. That's good. Okay, very
So-
good. I think I only have one additional question, which is what you see as your process moving forward. So eventually somebody's going to respond to your RFI. You're going to get those responses. Then what? What do you guys do then? Do you have a plan for what happens after that?
Uh, so honestly, Bob has been absent for a few meetings here because of health issues, and he has more of the industry specific knowledge. He was much more before his health situation leading sort of the charge on the RFI. So I don't know what he specifically had in mind. Certainly if we get responses, I mean, my hope is that it will be pretty obvious what the answers are. Uh, you know, certainly we want to move and we want to take advantage of whatever opportunities are happening now. To the extent that's possible, we understand that now is not a great time to be starting a network build because of supply chain and so forth. But just really, when we get the responses, we'll see what the interest is from the vendors, and we'll have a better picture of what we need to do to achieve our aims. And then we settle on that direction. That's my idea. I don't know, does
Gotcha.
anybody else feel differently? I think that's pretty much where we want to go.
Really what I was getting at was there would be a next round of funding in the spring, and you're going to be cutting it relatively close, I would think,
Mhm.
to choose a potential partner if they are applying for or helping you apply for grant funding through the state. And there will be other rounds, so it's not the end of the world, I assume. There will be many other rounds, or at least a few other rounds. But I think that funding is going to get harder, not easier, as we go along. As more towns like yours get their act together and decide, yeah, this is a direction we want to go, see the money, and say, yeah, we should be able to do something here. I've been encouraging the towns that I'm working with to apply very early. I put 3 towns in this last round, and we came in on pretty hot on 2 wheels, skidding in to get those 3 applications in, because I just felt like this was probably the best opportunity to get funding, because it'll probably be the least overprescribed than the next groupings of grants. So I assume you've been thinking about grants because they're going to be important. I think there's money out there, unless you have a private provider who just wants to do this for you, which if that were the case, they probably already would have done it, because they wouldn't need your money or state money. So the economics would already be there. And if they're not there, then I assume whoever your chosen ISP or process moving forward, they're going to be wanting to apply for funding. And if you miss the next round, you're going to probably delay your build by a year, at least, maybe longer. So it is a pretty challenging situation out there. It's not just supply chain. I think that is still a problem, but it'll also be, you're also going to have billions of dollars on the street all at once across the United States. And that will affect the availability of stuff, not just the ability to get it into your town, get it delivered there, but just the stuff is going to get more expensive. It's just going to be a bit more challenging as you move forward. So I would just encourage you to think through those timelines pretty seriously, because I do think they're going to matter. And on the other hand, you're going to be most likely municipally driven in some way, and municipally driven processes are slower by nature because they're public and they just take time and things have to happen in a particular way. So understanding, and I understand and appreciate that also. So understanding that is, we're used to working with, we personally are used to working with a lot of communities, so we understand that that's the case, but it would be nice if you could get your act together and get into the next round with whoever your provider might be or whoever you choose to move forward with. Because I do think that the delay will definitely delay you more so. And God, these projects are taking 18 months to build now. So you can imagine, from day one signing a contract, essentially, you got 18 months beyond that. So we are already pushing projects well into 2024. And the new set of projects will probably start hitting in 2025, the way this is going. So it's like, geez, that's a long way away, so, I just encourage you to think through that a little bit more, make sure that if you're at all able to, and hopefully that I heard that did I hear you right? That it looks like you'll be successful in your Get Ready grant. And if that's the case, which is exciting, that will allow you maybe to do a few things to get yourselves ready, which would be super helpful, I think. And you have a relationship with the Island Institute, I assume, which could also be very helpful, and they've got a good vision. We work with them quite closely. I don't know who your person is. Is it Krista?
It's Krista, yeah. And part of this started, Mark, we had applied for a fellowship. We do have a philanthropist in the community that wanted to support a 2-year fellow, but our committees were not organized enough to be accepted under the fellowship. We are hoping to apply again. We just need to work that out again with this committee and make sure that's how we want to move forward.
Yeah. One of the communities, I'm forgetting which island community now. Maybe it was Cranberry Island, I don't know. Anyway, used their fellow to do, it was Monhegan, used their fellow to do a lot of the broadband work, which was interesting. So, okay, very good. Well, I don't want to keep you any longer. This has been helpful, frankly, from my perspective, just to get a sense of where you guys are coming from, get to see your faces. I'm a sort of a face-to-face kind of guy. So it's nice to meet all of you. And we'll be working on something for you, at least from our perspective. So we'll have an application into you, well, it'll be in the last minute because that's how I work. Anxiety, excitement, and depression. That's how I run my life. So, but it'll come. I looked at your stuff, your RFI this morning, and got sort of working internally a little bit. Like, we need to get some data together for you so that we can put in something intelligent. So we'll start working on it, and we'll look forward to it. So thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
All right.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
No questions of me. Good. I'm out.
Thank you, Mark.
All right.
Thank you, Mark.
Take care. Yeah. Be well. Talk to you soon.
I'll email you if there are any questions.
Yeah. Feel free to reach out anytime. Okay. Take care.
Thank you. Bye. Okay. I just got an email from Mike Summer asking if we're still meeting monthly. So. Well, before we move on, do we want to have any discussion about what we just heard?
Right. I'll just add that I sent you the email from Bob's timeline. Mark was asking about what our timeline was, and I know Bob had put all of that together. So I forwarded an email to you. I don't know if that would be helpful to share with him.
Okay.
It wasn't
the-
necessary. Yeah.
It's
it
in
wasn't-
the attachment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wasn't necessary. We haven't really put dates on anything, but as he talks about
Right.
getting down and figuring out what we want to do, I know comprehensive planning wise, we keep saying we're going to try and have this to the town meeting by June. And we have been
Yeah.
working on this with the comp plan for so long that that is such a tight timeline. So I kind of agree with him that this is going to take some serious effort, I think, if we're going to get it done for this coming town meeting of 2023.
Right. Tom?
Yeah. So I can actually probably forward you what Axiom presented to Hamden. I've got a copy of it. They send it to every voter, registered voter here in town. So I could probably send that to you, give
Yeah,
you
that'd
some
be good.
idea what we're looking at. But I'm living in a town where they're putting in fiber. They do it on Saturdays and Sundays as well as 5 days a week. Different crew on Saturday and Sunday, but they work 12-hour days. So I know that Axiom themselves is very active in doing the actual work, not just
Getting it done.
talking about getting it done, but doing the work. I've been impressed with the way they dealt with our town. And again, this is a town that is supposedly 100% served by Spectrum, and Spectrum has lost about 41%, I think, 41 or 42 the last time I looked, of their previous customers. They're going to lose me. I just haven't done it yet because I've been busy down in Goldsboro on my other house.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, that'd be great. You can send that along and we'll share it.
you got it.
Um, so what, I mean, one thing about sending out the RFI is just to find out if there are providers out there who feel like they can meet what we need. And certainly I don't think that Consolidated or Spectrum are going to meet what we want in the time frame that we want it to happen. I'm reasonably certain that's the case. So I mean, it's not to say it's perfunctory that we did the RFI, but I still think that probably putting in our own network is the route that I would like to see us go. Anybody have any other thoughts than that?
Again, I am in a town where Spectrum was given the same RFI and RFP actually for putting in fiber around town. They literally waited till the last month of the thing to give a price, and then said that they were going to have to follow it up after the deadline with more finite details on what the pricing was going to be. And this is a town that is much smaller than the peninsula is, and much higher density of population. We're looking at 8,000 full-time residents and a total of about 3,700, I think, 3,800 homes. And they're all located in less than 40 square miles. 36 square miles, I think is the actual.
And you said they were already 100% served, so it's not like they weren't already familiar with the territory. They
But
had all the details.
Yeah, they just didn't want to run fiber to everybody's house.
Yeah.
I mean, they can give me right now, I've got 358 or something like that as my download speed, but my upload speed is 21 on a good day, and typically it's about 16.
Right.
So it's not 100 symmetrical.
Right.
And they already are here. So.
Yeah. So since we've leaned in this direction in the past, what could we be doing? Like you said, town meeting is June in Winter Harbor, and it's about the same in Goldsboro, I think. Yeah. So what could we be doing to further, assuming we get the answers we expect we're going to get, to further our own network build process? I mean, Anne's not at the town office anymore. She was going to work on a map. I mean, I think it is certainly something we do need to have. We need to get that map done, and maybe that's something that we can work on a little bit more actively, figure out our actual routes where the customers would be, the actual mileage of fiber that it would take to run fiber through the entirety of the two towns. I mean, does that seem like where we need to go next? So we know we can come up with some numbers finally? I don't know. Tom, do you have, Thomas, I should say, or Tom Toll, you just unmuted, so.
Yeah, that whole process of mapping out the poles and stuff has still got me a little bit confused. Do we know that that's what other communities have done? They've done, you know, it's a lot of work, and I hate to
Do work unnecessarily.
well, yes, that, but I'd also, if it's really important, I'd like to make sure we do it the right way.
Mhm.
And obviously using a GIS system or something a little bit more accurate than just riding down the road would be more precise. But I don't know if anything like that is necessary.
Yeah.
What do the vendors expect from us?
Well, and at that point, if we're doing our own build, if Spectrum wants to come in and do their own network expansion, I'm pretty sure they have pretty good data on the network as it stands and the roads as it stand. I don't think that they would expect us to do that work for them. But you make the good point, and that's why I was going to ask Thomas if there was, if we go the route of, for example, mimicking DBU, what would be the steps that we would need to take to be able to move this forward?
Yeah, definitely, Roy. So having that high level network design, is what they call it, that is going to be necessary. And so, you know, traditionally, these towns, before good interest from the private ISPs, would hire consultants to do the work. You know, it's certainly something that any citizen who has to have the knowledge and extensive knowledge could go out and do that work. But really, you know, they hire consultants, like we work with Mission Broadband, to do planning. Lately, the ISPs that are the most interested, if you're going to go private model, are going to do that network design for you. They should suggest it. And if they don't suggest it, you should suggest it. But somebody's got to get it done. And, you know, it should be them doing the work if they really want to, you know, win the grant money to build in your towns. Most likely they'll do it, and they'll do it for free. But did you guys apply to the MCA grant under the premise of being municipally owned? Or were you kind of open to?
Yeah, there was no specification on that. We're still in that getting ready part of it.
Yeah. So first off, I want to say congratulations. I mean, for winning, it's almost set in stone. It hasn't been announced yet, but that's really awesome work that you guys have done to get to this point. I'm so happy to hear that you won. I think that's great. We're in a good position now that if you want to go the municipally owned route, sounds like, you know, there's a lot of movement towards that. Included in this package is the MCA services that should help you perform that high level network design and the cost analysis associated with it. So in the grant, you could tell them exactly what you needed them to do. And, you know, we'll be working with them as things go along. But if you want to go municipally owned, and there's no, you know, right way, wrong way. The right way is just to get the broadband, but certainly I'm sure they like municipally owned projects because it means money is going to be getting put back into the town, which is always great. They're going to help you do that. And we're going to work with the MCA to ensure that we can help the towns in our region do that. But they have contracts in place to provide those services, and anything they can't provide, that's what the 10 grand is there for. So now you have 20 grand that you could put towards a consultant to do some of the work that the MCA can't do. But it's a whole package deal that they're putting forward. So these questions are best directed at them. And I'm sure that, you know, we're in the very early stages, so a couple of weeks will go by, but it'll start to get more clear on your end what they need you to do, how we can work together, and the Island Institute and everything. And And then the MCA is going to start doing these things to get you guys ready for either the spring round, but that's probably too close. So the round after, to get the infrastructure funding, if you can get the high level network design in place. They just need to know that the plan is almost foolproof before they lend out the money.
Well, and I think as you say, from a high level, it would be very easy to look at distances, get some mileage, and figure out based on what we've heard already about fiber from Pioneer Broadband, we could roughly estimate what our network would need to look like, just as a ballpark. Not to say we don't engage a consultant, but at least to give us our, a very basic idea of what we're looking at. And then, so you would say, talk to MCA about engaging in that work?
This is what the MCA is there for, and this is what you guys got enrolled in the program to do. So this is all a part of the package that they're going to help you do. They'll help you get the infrastructure funding. So it's a set of deliverables, and we'll start checking them off the list. And if you don't have it, they or our support network, so EMDC included in the Island Institute, will help you get the those check marks checked off. And then once they're all checked off, you're in a good place to apply for infrastructure funding. It's no guarantee that you'll get it, but they'll provide you the services, and they'll tell you, what's left over, what else you need to get it done.
Okay.
So this is actually really good. You're in a really good place, but just, maybe give it a couple weeks and wait to see how these things play out. I'm sure there's going to be a conference with all of the towns. And then you'll have someone from the MCA probably connect with you and say, this is where you're at. What are you guys looking to do? You'll have that preliminary conversation with them. And then we'll start to create a game plan of things and then just start checking it off the list. And it's going to take about a year. I mean, the program is for a year. Maybe you guys can get it done sooner.
Well, in the RFI, just because we wanted to be realistic, I did list end of business January 23rd as a deadline. And that was specifically because being respectful, there's a lot of pieces to that. So at least Axiom has shown interest. And so I think, to be respectful of that, we can certainly have those discussions with MCA, but I don't know that we can make a decision which route we go one way or the other until that deadline comes.
Mhm.
Now that's the day before our January meeting. So we have one more meeting between now and then.
Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, a lot of them are going to do the same thing, whether it's private, whether the MCA and us help you.
I mean, if we're talking about fiber in the first place, we'd need the same sort of network, high-level network design, whether it's Spectrum, whether it's consolidated, whether it's, so, I mean, we could do that. And
absolutely. And if Axiom wants it, they're going to do it for you. And it's probably going to be pretty good. So ISPs have gotten turned away because their network designs aren't, they're 99% of the way there, but they're not 100%. But there should be enough out there from the state that they have a pretty good idea of what they need to put forward to win the grant money. But the state knows exactly what you need. And it doesn't matter if you go municipally or privately owned, you still utilize the state's services because they don't care. They just want to see you get broadband. So if you say, well, Axiom or whoever it is, this is the design they have, this is what they're, bringing to the table. How does this look? I'm sure that they'll help assess that prior to applying for funding.
Okay. So, Tom?
This is maybe a little bit taking a side road here for a second, but this is another thing that's bothered me and I haven't been able to get a good answer on. Versant Power, for instance, they know where every pole is that's out there. They went through and they inventoried everything. It's all numbered. I've been told that you can't get that information because it's proprietary and blah, blah, blah. They're in these public spaces. They're there by sufferance. The communities allow them to be in the right of way. The state allows them to be in the right of way. I don't understand why we can't get that information from a utility company that is supposed to be governed by and regulated by the state.
Yep. I hear you. Well, that's their rules. I think that information is out there. You know, Versant's not going to give it to you because they say it's proprietary, but that doesn't mean that the information is not out there. And I'm sure somebody knows what it is. So there's no point in recreating the wheel. If we utilize the state services, I'm sure they have access to some of this information already, regardless of which company it comes from or where they got the information from. But, you know, I'm sure it's out there. I've also heard people using 911 data. Companies that you already work with, like Spectrum, already has that information. Companies that you don't work with sometimes already have that information because they've done mapping in your area without you guys even knowing.
Yeah.
I just wonder if anybody knows anybody that knows anybody in the PUC or somebody in the state, government. I've tried to reach out. We can get all the mapping we want of the roads from the state. They have GIS database of all the roads and they furnish that for free. In any form you want it, in any file format. But I don't know how to get around the other way. If we could get somebody from our congressional delegation or somebody to break the ice and say, hey, give us this information. It's public. They're on public spaces. They're there by sufferance.
Yeah, you're right, Tom. Wish I could help you out with that. Wish I had the answer.
I mean, I think I mentioned this already when I spoke to the PUC. They said the information isn't strictly public because it's critical infrastructure that they don't want targeted, sort of war on terrorism stuff. I'm sure if anybody's going to fly planes into, electrical infrastructure here, they're going to pick down East Main, I know, but I would definitely suggest, I don't know if he has any interest whatsoever. I would suggest residents of Winter Harbor and Goldsboro write to your representative, newly elected. He's now a House Minority Leader, so maybe he's got a little bit more pull than he used to. Maybe if he thinks it'll look good on his resume, he'll help us out. Find a way.
I would also put out there that Tim Pease, the attorney for Goldsboro and the Shoreline Properties, if I remember right, Tim was attorney for Amera Versant for some time. I don't know if he might be a possible person to ask.
Well,
all right, so we'll engage. Is there any particular person you think we should reach out to for next steps with MCA then, Thomas?
Yeah, absolutely. Kendra Joe is going to be your contact at the MCA. So, reach out to her now.
Okay.
But I'm sure that they are probably going to hold probably like a group meeting with the cohort. So everyone from the towns and kind of lay everything out. But I'd also imagine that they'll do a one-on-one with you guys strictly, but she's going to be your resource. When you get more into the technical components, you might end up working specifically with one person or another. But she's the manager for this program specifically. So that's going to be your go-to.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely. And I apologize. I got to get going. I'm a little bit late to my next meeting, but thanks so much for letting me join. Sandy, I'll follow up with you after this meeting so you and I can talk. And congratulations once again, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For joining us.
All right. Take care.
Okay, nothing anybody have anything else they wanted to add?
Uh,
Sandy?
Just wanted to touch on the Island Institute Fellow. I have spoken with Brianna in Goldsboro Town office where Anne has left. She and I are going to sit down and have the conversation about her being a possible mentor and move forward with that. For any of you that don't know, we had applied for that fellow to help with broadband and community gardens. It was a combination project. We were advised, Krista had said to go ahead and try and reapply, but I wanted to check in with this committee to see, and we can put this on the agenda for next time if we need to, Roy. The application for the fellow is not due until I think the end of January. I have to review that. But I do need to get in touch with the philanthropist that had offered to cover this person. So just putting that out there to the committee now, we can table it till our next meeting, but just wanted in everybody's thoughts about whether we want to move ahead with having a fellow assist with this project.
I can't say it would be a bad thing. I think it'd be good, and that is obviously there's compensation to go with that. And you know, Rhiannon did email me today. She's sorry she couldn't make today's meeting, but I'm glad to see that there's other people, young people in Winter Harbor especially, who are interested in, you know, working on this process. So I'd like to see us proceed with that. We can put it on the agenda for next time, just for formal discussion.
Okay.
But, all right. So I don't have anything specific on Gouldsboro. Winter Harbor report. I've picked up 20, call it 19, but it's 20 physical pieces of paper of surveys that have been scanned and emailed over to Rhiannon, and she's going to add them in with our other survey data. So we'll have it all together in one place. That is Sarah at the town office. Hopefully will let me know if any others come in, but 20, I'm not sure how many were actually sent out, but that's probably a decent response rate for Winter Harbor.
So
I don't know exactly how many were sent out in the first place. It was sent out in the pattern of their newsletters. So,
ooh, yeah, I don't know the count for newsletters I'm assuming that was that came in last month. I don't know what their count is for newsletters.
yeah, we can probably find that out, but you know, 20 is not terrible. And there were actually a few people that were quite verbose in their surveys that added more information than what was asked for. So it's good. Franklin's survey has been distributed as far as other towns, just for information. Talked about the RFI.
Roy, do you know offhand if the town of Winter Harbor has additional copies of that survey? Because we do have the craft fair coming up on Thursday night. I'm happy to bring more copies and just put another ask out.
I don't know if they have any additional copies, but we can certainly find a way to, I'm sure, print some more.
Okay.
Paper's pretty cheap still.
Yeah, it's the ink. That's the
Oh, they
cost.
have a brand new copier over at the town office too.
Oh, yes,
So-
I heard that. Right.
all
I'll
right.
follow up on that then and just have some copies with me Thursday night.
Okay. Do you have the contact info for Kendra? Kendra
I do.
Joe?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you need me to forward that to you?
You can send it to me, and maybe it's just worth an initial email. Obviously, it's still a little preliminary, but you know, we can couch it in the hopes that what may be preliminary becomes actual, that we'd like
Well-
to see what steps.
And perhaps we could invite her to the next meeting
Absolutely.
and she could give the whole committee an update. That would be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. I'll share that with you.
And then maybe we can get some of this high-level network design taken care of. I think that would make everybody feel pretty good.
Yes.
All right. Anything else, anyone? All right, it is 2:30.
What do we,
Tom?
what do we think about for next meeting?
So if we do the regular schedule, that's a very good question. That would be fourth Tuesday, so 6, 13, 20. That would be Tuesday, December 27th. Does that work for people? Obviously, it's right after the holiday again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So we will leave it as Tuesday, December 27th for our next meeting. We will meet Zoom again, and we will invite Kendra. Is it Kendra Joe?
And Joe. Yeah.
Kendra Joe. Okay. We'll invite Kendra Joe, and hopefully we'll have confirmation of the grant, and we'll be able to actually get some physical work done.
Yes. Sounds
Okay.
great.
All
Awesome.
right.
Thank you so much, everyone.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Have a good week. Have a good month.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
See you next time.